All right. Welcome, Molly Rose, to the Self-Employment Success Podcast.
Hi, Leland. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Of course, I'm excited for our conversation. Before we hit record, we were talking about how I think this is going to be exciting because not only are you self-employed, but you work with self-employed people as well. And we'll get deeper into that. So, to get started, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your business and kind of where it stands today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the founder of Virtual Assistant Management. It's a placement agency for certified virtual assistants and the creator of Virtual Assistant Academy, which is a certification program for virtual assistants. I'm really trying to professionalize the space that we all know as virtual assistants because there's not a lot of that out there. And so it's been a wild ride getting here. Started in corporate finance, I have kind of a similar background as you, and took a turn, and now I'm helping people in the online space.
I love that. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey. Just hearing that, like, how did you get from corporate finance, where in a lot of the corporate finance world, you don't have virtual assistants.
Yeah,
You just have assistants.
assistants. Yeah.
And so, how did you get from that world to where you are now?
Yes. So after college, I had 3 jobs in about 4 years. Corporate finance. I was a manager at Target, which was wildly fun and crazy and
I can only imagine.
nuts. Giving a 24-year-old keys to a Target store is insane. But anyway, and then back to finance. And I'm a military spouse. I was engaged to a guy in the military, and he was on his 4th deployment. We're 25 years old, and I realized, I'm like, this is not going to work. This isn't the life that I want to have. I want to be able to travel when he's gone. I want to be, if we're moving around the country, I want to be able to take my career with me. And I just kind of saw a dead end path in a lot of ways. So I quit cold turkey and became what we all know now as a virtual assistant. I had no idea what that was back then. This was 12 years ago. And just started supporting all sorts of entrepreneurs, from speakers to authors to financial in the finance industry, to real estate agents, to coaches, you name it, and it continues. And along the way, I had several peers, military spouses, seeing my life, seeing me travel abroad, working remote, making good money. And they just kept asking, how do I do what you do? And so that's kind of what birthed this Virtual Assistant Academy as it stands now. It's been through several iterations, and then really trying to, like I said, professionalize this career path for the people that want this flexible opportunity.
Yeah. We so I'm located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Virginia Beach
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Norfolk
yeah.
is a huge military area. And so a lot of the people I work with and just a lot of friends and neighbors are on that. Every couple years you move, or you're a military spouse and you might have kids and your spouse is gone. And so it's like, well, how do I work and do um, like parenting and daycare and things like that? And so it really is so hard for military spouses to keep a like
Yeah.
standard office career. And so I think that's so creative. But you said that you weren't really aware of what virtual assistant was. Like, so you realize, okay, what I'm doing, there's a dead end that I'm going to hit with our lifestyle, with his career. How did you did you just pick up a computer one day and
Yeah.
talk to a small business owner? Like, what happened
Yeah.
there to get you in that world?
Yeah. So I attended a conference called Succeed Faster. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was about 150, I call high potential senior in college to, first 2 to 3 years out. And the guys that started the conference just were bringing us together to teach us those skills that we don't really learn in college, the how to connect with people, remember their name, going big dreams. What do you want out of your life? All that type of stuff. And along the way, I heard the term entrepreneur, which again, 12 years ago, people weren't just doing this rapidly, becoming entrepreneurs and making their own money. Now it's common.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute, you mean I can get paid for services that I know? Like, this is interesting. Also called freelancing. Entrepreneurship's a little bit more than
Yeah.
that. And so I kind of knew that in the back of my head. So I was educated on that a little bit. And then driving back to work the next 4 months, my life was changed. My mindset was changed. And I realized this is not going to work for me anymore. I was crying. I was so sad. I was just depressed pretty much. And my mom said, what's the worst going to happen? I'll always feed you and you always have a roof over your head. Quit your job and come home. get married and all those things. And so my husband comes home from deployment to a unemployed fiance, and he's like, okay, you got 4 to 6 months to figure this out. I love you. It's going to be okay. All those things. So within 3 months, that same conference, one of the connections I made there, Power of Making Connections, he was crowdfunding for a student loan documentary, and they needed a social media manager to raise $75,000 through social media awareness and all of that. And I applied for it, created this little video interview, spent a whole day doing it, and they hired me. And it was a pretty decent retainer, not what I was making it corporate, but I just figured it out. That was my first little taste of making my own money, and that's what snowballed everything forward. And we did a great job. We raised our money. The documentary made it on CNBC. My name was in it. All those cool
That's
things
awesome.
that I didn't even expect. So just that little taste of like, okay, I can do this. And then it snowballed into being his assistant, the founder of that film. And then he referred a bunch of people, and then the trail just kind of started.
Yeah. It is amazing how in the like virtual assistant world specifically, you just get in one door and do a good job, and it's like, oh my gosh, well, I've got this other person who is looking for the same amount or like same work or similar work, and I
Yeah.
pay you for X amount of hours or services, like you should also work with them, which is so cool. Okay, so you're doing it yourself. Other friends, acquaintances are seeing you and saying, wow, okay, she's kind of got the whole package, like the freedom and the money
Yeah.
and the consistency of work, like regardless of where she's living. And at this point, like you begin to think, okay, I could make this into a business, like essentially headhunting for virtual assistants or making connections, staffing. How did that begin, like practically?
Yeah. So I kind of say one too many Starbucks dates. People were saying, can I take you to coffee and learn about this? And I was like, okay, I need to package this. So first came training the virtual assistants in the way that I wanted them to be educated, right? The skill sets that I wanted them to have, how I wanted them to show up in their business, really that professional approach. So that was, we're in this course creator economy too. And so kind of jumped into that and was pretty successful in getting several students enrolled. We're up to 150 now and growing.
Wow.
And then I'd say it took about 2 years. I taught first, and then within 2 years, I kept having entrepreneurs that I'd meet at conferences or my own clients saying, "You have all these virtual assistants you trained. Are you going to place them? Can I have one of them?" And so I'd make the referrals here and there, and then I realized, wait a second, this is a
This is
business.
also something I should be getting paid on.
Yes, because it's a lot of work, and there's a lot of technique into making the perfect placement. So that's what birthed virtual assistant management. And so we have both kind of sides. So we're serving the clients and now serving the students as well.
So did you start with the academy or did you start with the staffing? So you started with Virtual Assistant Academy first.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Okay. Man, genius. And I can imagine that in the virtual assistant world, there's so many skills. You've got people who do writing, who do social media, who like do calendars, and email way more. I just feel like you name it, you can find a virtual assistant who can probably do it for you. So have you like niched down into anything? Like my virtual assistant kind of do this, or are you like, what does that training look like? I can just imagine there's so many skills that someone would need.
Yeah, great question. So I wanted to have the general virtual assistant because the clients that were coming to me and the ones that I serve, it's kind of you're a jack of all trades. It's that business owner that's hiring for their first hire. They need someone that does more than one thing, right? They don't want to hire 5 people. They want to hire 1.
Yep.
So you named several of them. So I have 8 core competencies that we train to. And then from there, the virtual assistants kind of forge their own paths. And I have advanced, course creation or website development or sales and negotiation, things like that your VA can really be doing for you. The right VA can be doing for you. But some of the basic things are, like you said, email, inbox management. So inbox zero, something I teach, calendar scheduling, travel booking, email CRM systems on a basic level. So broadcasts and some funnel work and tagging, research and doing KPIs for your business. So how are you growing, running your stats? What else do I have? Project management. So you have a vision, you want something executed, they can help you kind of flush out all the tasks that need to be done and then help you with all of those tasks. So that's just a number of them and basic bookkeeping. I should know these off the top of my head. But yeah, there's a lot, right? And then it just kind
Gosh.
of goes from there. And then the other side of it is the tech, right? We all use different softwares.
Yeah. When you said CRM, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, there's Salesforce, but then there's like a million others that go per industry,
Yes.
So
Yes.
what does that look like when you're thinking like, how do I train people on all these different
Yeah.
tech?
Yeah. So something like CRMs, I teach very high level what you need to know, what a CRM is, how it works, what's important about it. And then I dig into Active Campaign, which is different than a CRM, but kind of does the same thing. Less skill or less options than something like Salesforce. But the beauty of once you kind of understand it and know how it's going to benefit the client, what you need to know about it is all these companies have insane training. Salesforce has one of the best training academies for a software that I've ever done. So I'm able to kind of direct them on what they need to go do next.
Kind of like how you said, once we have the core competencies, they can kind of run with it. And there's sort of the advanced, they can sort of niche themselves down and you can kind of guide them in that direction.
Yes, absolutely.
Man. Okay. So when you opened the doors for the academy, were you thinking this is going to become my new gig, or was it like, I'm going to still be a virtual like assistant myself and this will kind of be a fun side thing? Because it sounds like that has now advanced to be like primarily what you're doing. Are you still doing any virtual assisting yourself?
Yeah, I am. I have one client, and I run the whole business, so it's a great thing, and it keeps me fresh, right? It
You're a
keeps
virtual
me.
CEO.
Yes, COO. Yep, exactly. Or CEO. I'll take that title too. But really, I am. And so it's a different. It's way high level and more than being a virtual assistant. And that's the beauty of this career. I started with honestly calendar scheduling and email management, and now I know how to run a 7-figure business for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught. The growth is there. So to answer your question, though, I started it just to fill the need of all my peers, and it was super low cost. I was like, okay, I just want to get you trained, give you something to get started. And then it kind of just took off. And so that's what allowed me to go into more iterations, get really deep into it, really kind of look at the curriculum and what we were teaching. And now it makes up more than half of my work. So it's awesome.
That is so cool. And when you first launched, 150 people is huge. Like, how did that growth, how long has the academy been around? What was the growth like there?
Yep.
For
slow.
something kind of creating something that like then grows to become your main thing. Was that, whoa, I had more people than I anticipated? Was it,
It was super slow. And, candidly, marketing is one of the hardest things we do in our businesses. So it's just been really organic. I have done some online marketing, and that's really opened the gates for me. But a lot of our business has been referral, word of mouth, and we've gotten such good quality of people to come through because of that. So that's been really, really great. And not everyone that comes through the Virtual Assistant Academy joins the management team, because we also teach you how to go do this on your own. You can run with it. So it's been a slow moving thing. The Academy's been around, I'd say just under 6 years. So
okay.
Not a huge influx at one time.
But at this point, it feels like, it's now at the point, like kind of a slow growth situation. How long has the management team been there?
Pre-COVID. So 3 years, 2.5 years. I should know these numbers. And that's been really exciting.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And what does that look like ongoing? Like, is it for you as the business owner, or as someone, if they're listening to this being like, I want to do this? Is it you take just a one-time like fee for the connection? Is it the company is hiring virtual assistant management for their assistant and you're providing it and they're paying you their comp? Like, how is that structured?
Yeah, so we have two different models, and you just laid them out. So
Perfect.
we have a direct hire model. So if you know without a doubt this is the right person, you're going to bring them into your team, potentially end up making them a W-2. But most of our VAs are paid on a 1099. We have a one-time fee that you can pay for the placement, just like a headhunter fee. Or we have a more flexible option, which is our agency model, where exactly that you pay a smaller placement fee, and then there's an hourly rate for a dedicated virtual assistant. So we don't run a service where you put your tasks in a queue and a random VA is going to grab it. You have a
Hmm.
dedicated person that becomes a part of your team. And a lot of times, if they do the agency model, they end up directly hiring them down the road.
Hmm.
It's more cost effective in the long run. But yeah, so you have the flexibility. And also the beauty of the agency is if it doesn't work out, we can replace someone rather quickly because we're involved in it, know your account and all of that.
Oh yeah, I can imagine if you are making your first hire, like you said, my key clientele are those business owners making their first hire. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times in my experience with the people that I serve, a lot of times they get to their first hire and they don't really know what they need. Like they know they need help, but they don't know like what is the type of person that I need? How do I do this? And so I can imagine that agency model is so helpful to be like, hey, I have this person. I'm realizing it's not a good fit for XYZ reason that I hadn't thought of before, but there's someone else who kind of fits that skill set or gift set or even just personality
Yep.
profile,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you're really nailing all the things we cover before I can even say it. It's
Oh,
exactly what we
I should
do.
like.
No, it's perfect. No, it's wonderful. I'm happy that it's understood on your side. So, um, yeah, that's exactly what we do. So when we bring a new client in, if they're unclear that, a lot of times a coach or someone's told them, you really need a virtual assistant, like you need
Mhm,
some help, you're giving up your life and your client work suffering or whatever it is, and that's specifically going on. And then to your point, they say, I don't even know. I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know what I would give them, or it's going to take me time to give that thing to them. So
mhm,
we have a really good process of flushing out of you kind of what you need to do. And for those listening, what I recommend you doing on your own is kind of taking a week and writing down all the things that you do. Just have a notepad next to your desk. I know it sounds tedious, but it's really eye opening to come back to it and look at it and say, wow, I'm doing all of this stuff. Like I shouldn't be doing this and this and this. And that's what really starts to create your job description. And then, as you said, then there comes personality set. What time zone are they in? What hours do you want them to work? What capacity? How many hours per week? All of that kind of plays into that job description that we help you with.
It is so that exercise that you said is so helpful. I personally actually did that earlier this summer because am trying to work with my assistant and we're bringing on a paraplanner. So I was trying to figure out like who's going to do what and what are all the different things. So someone encouraged me write down every task you do throughout a week, and it was tedious. It wasn't as tedious as I thought because as I'm doing things, I'm like, oh, this is something I haven't written down. And it was amazing how many things I do that aren't like revenue generating, or if I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
like as the business owner, I need to be spending my time doing the things that propel the business forward, really drive the mission of the business. But I'm doing all these things that, like, if I were to place an hourly rate on my time, aren't worth that hourly rate, if that makes sense.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so I think that's just a wise encouragement of like, really look at your business transparently, saying, which takes work, and say, what are you doing? And are the tasks you're doing worth your time as the owner, as the
Yes.
primary person in this organization or in this even small business, solopreneur business?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And if you think about, there's also the control. There's two other things that people get hung up on. One is control, right? It's your baby, it's your business. You started it, you've been doing it for years. And how could you let someone else do it? Well, the people that you're hiring should be better at it than you, way more efficient. When I check someone's email, I can zip through it versus when they're sitting next to me working on it, they get in their head, they add more detail, they ask questions. It's like, nope, let's just, get through this and keep moving forward. That is an example of something where
Mm-hmm.
you get slowed down. And then the other thing is the investment piece, right? Like, okay, but you just kind of hit the nail on the head. If you're able to use that time then to go get a new client or do business development or do provide a service at an hourly rate that's far more than what you can pay a virtual assistant, you're ahead.
Yeah, I totally agree. A question popped in my mind. Do you have a virtual assistant for yourself for the Academy and Management System?
I do. And a lot of the things I just said, I struggled with too, right? I was like, wow, this is what they actually mean when they talk about like, I can't give this up. I'm like, I was struggling with the same exact thing. So it was this just happened in the past year, actually. And yeah, I do.
That's it. I love when someone takes their own advice, and I think a lot of especially business owners need to do that. I find like financial advisors are like the worst clients if like of themselves, if that makes
Oh
sense.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
but for you, I can imagine like what was it? All the things you were saying, like it's my baby, I can't give this up, but also you being like the professional virtual assistant can probably do email better than the virtual, like you cannot do all these skills that you're hiring someone to do
It's true.
better than them because you're the one that trained them to do it.
Yeah.
And so
It's
like
been,
what was that like? I guess similarly like having to hold loosely some of these things.
yeah, I think, like I said, I really related to the clients that are like, this is, I can't fill my hours, because I just kept doing it. And I have a good virtual assistant who would come to me and say, okay, but you're working on Fridays and you don't want to be, or it's 7:30 and you're responding to me. This is why I'm here, so
Mm,
they're actually making me realize like, yeah, I can pop an email and get this done, or I can schedule all my podcast interviews, but that took me an hour and a half when I
mhm,
could have gotten through my work and been off at 3:30 like I desire to, each day. So it's a time thing. If you don't get
mhm.
that support, you're never going to get that time freedom. That is the whole
That
reason we have it.
I think that is a profound thought for all business owners. Is
Yeah.
people start their business 9 times out of 10, the clients that I work with started their business with a vision of freedom. Like, I'm not an employee, I'm not restricted to a desk 8 to 5. I get to work wherever, make my own destiny. And there's this image in the back of your head of like, then I can have other people run the business, or I can kind of be freed up in my own time. But then you see the entrepreneurs are the ones working 60 hours a week and doing
Yep.
all these things. And it's really hard to step away and say, I started this so that I could take Fridays off. I started
Yeah.
this so that I could be home early and or travel. And
And they
that's
don't do
kind of
it.
like the bait and switch of entrepreneurship. And so you're right, like having someone come in and say, this is why I'm here. Like you can live by your values. For you to actually carry out the fullness of the stream, like you've got the baby of the business and it's doing well and you're running it. But for you to get the benefit of the business, which is why you started it, you need to delegate it.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
you need to give up these things. And it's hard. And I find business owners wait too long to hire and they get
Oh
to the
yeah.
point where they're like, no, I don't have time to train someone.
Yes. Yes.
And
Uh,
so I love that, like for you, they're getting someone who's like already been trained for the most part,
yes.
like
For the most part. Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
prepackaged deal, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And this might resonate more to the females listening, although maybe the males too. I think also having a virtual assistant, it's like giving yourself permission to receive. I know that sounds kind of woo-woo, but I was just doing some personal development work yesterday in a program I'm part of, and that's what it was all about. We were talking about just receiving the help or
Mm.
receiving the gift, right? And it's like that's also been something that came up for me, that's like it is okay to get help. I don't have to
Hmm.
do everything. So I think as business owners, that's also something to kind of look internally about.
Yeah, I think that is huge. Yeah, I just completely agree with that. For women, I think especially women who are like kind of fed the message of like, you need to be a mom and like a
Yeah.
CEO and like
Mm-hmm.
have it all together. And for men who are business owners and have like so much of our identity is wrapped up in work that we're like, I have to be the one to do this. And so to just be able to be like, no, you don't.
Yep.
Like that's you can, like you said, receive the gift of having someone come in and help you, even if you could do it. Like I can manage my email, I can manage my calendar, but is that the best use of my
Mm-hmm.
time?
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's in the business or even like personally? Could I take that time and go, you know, be with friends or be with my family or whatever it may be? Um,
Yes.
so for you in this journey, I've got a handful of questions, but in this
Okay.
journey, what surprised you the most from like, okay, I've hit a wall as a military spouse and now I'm, working for this documentary and it's blowing up and then now I'm a virtual assistant. I sort of stumbled my way into it in some ways and now I'm training virtual assistants. Now I have these other businesses that like throughout the whole journey, what has surprised you the most?
I think the biggest thing is that, humbly saying this, that I created a program that whether I speak to the virtual assistant or not, which I always try to, they can take it and it will completely change their life. So for example, these
Mm,
military spouses that I'm supporting, the word identity comes up a lot as a military spouse. You're flushed into your spouse's career. They put you in a certain part of the country where there's usually no industry. If
mm,
you're a female, you're the homekeeper and you have the children and you just lose your identity to the military. It happens all the time. And so to have this program that these spouses could take, make their own money, add financially to the family, work around their schedule, still be a stay-at-home mom if they want to, still travel if they want to, and see it work. It,
mm,
I didn't see that coming. I just thought, okay, I'm going to help these women in my squadron, and they're going to take my course. I'll give it to them if that's what I have to do, and it's going to be great. And just to see the impact has been insane. Like I got on a call last week, and someone was like, "You've literally changed my life by
mm.
introducing me." So that's been really cool, and I didn't see that coming. And I don't think
Gosh,
I accept that totally.
how powerful is that?
Yeah.
That is like hard work and heart work. Like you're impacting
Yes.
people's lives and heart and
Mm-hmm.
that's just amazing. What was there a low point for you in it? It kind of that feels like we're just trucking along and things are just advancing. Was there a part where you were like, yeah, you experienced a low point in the journey?
Yeah, I think there's certainly been low points. I think when my academy, so I always say this, when you work the business works. And so I have a habit of getting into my trade of being a virtual assistant, which I do very well. And so I go focus on that. And then this side suffers, or I just kind of ignore it for a week or two and or a month. And when that happens, things, I don't see the results that I want. I don't see what's coming. And then my mind goes, am I making the right decision? And should I have done the corporate job? There's been times over the past 10 years that I'm on Indeed and I'm like trying to compare myself to my peers. And I'm wondering, if I would have stayed in corporate healthcare, would I have been a director by now? And what would my life be like? Did I make the right decision? And you kind of
Mm,
get in this mental game and you get really down on yourself when your program isn't working or the placements aren't coming through. You're like, what am I doing? It's
mm,
just a bad month. Um, and so I've had those low points where I just have to check in and go, not every month is a shining revenue month. You have your dips, just like the market, right?
yep.
And you just have to work through it and have the good, uh, the the energy and the people around you to pull you out of that. So I have a lot of those that I
Yeah.
make phone calls. I'm like, what am I doing? Keep going, keep
Yeah.
going.
That is the journey of entrepreneurship right there. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want anybody listening to hear that. I had a episode months ago with a guy named Wills Francis and we talked about like almost the daily or weekly quote unquote head trash of that we tell ourselves of like, is this going to work? Okay, I had this great month, but is the well going to dry up or, you know, and you almost have to like constantly battle that and say like,
Yeah.
today was hard. We're still doing well. Or, this month we didn't hit our goals, but that's okay. Like next month we will, and we're going to keep pushing forward because entrepreneurship is hard in that way.
Yeah.
So, that just makes total sense. What advice would you give to either like someone thinking about becoming a virtual assistant, like say the military spouse, and what advice would you give to a business owner or solopreneur entrepreneur who, you know, is building their business and kind of getting to this point where they think they need to hire?
Yeah. So those, uh, if this is piquing your interest about being a virtual assistant, I wholeheartedly want to express how much this has changed my life.
Mm,
When I say I've traveled the world by myself over 7 times and have worked in the morning and played in the afternoon and had these amazing adventures. I've made great money doing it. And so the advice in getting started is to take a professional approach at it, and you will be far more successful than just kind of wobbling and figuring it out. That's something I didn't do. I left a lot of money on the table. I didn't have boundaries. I took clients that I shouldn't have, all those things that I've hopefully figured out for my virtual assistants that they're not having to work through. But and believe that you can do it. We have virtual assistants from all backgrounds. Some have college
mm,
degrees, some don't. Some are nurses, we have physician's assistants, we have architects, we have just women that are like, I can't get jobs, so I'm going to do this. And they end up
mm-hmm,
loving it. And then they become virtual assistants in those industries, which is really cool. So there's so many ways to go with it. And then those that are, on knowing that you need a virtual assistant, start before you're ready, which you mentioned. And what that looks like is start if you're doing repeatable tasks. There's a tool called Loom. It
mm,
records your screen. It's $10 a month. There's probably a free version, I'm sure. Loom.com, Loom. And just start recording your processes. And you'll have your training deck for your own business before you even go to hire someone. And
mm,
that will save you a lot of headache and a lot of time when you go to do it. And then you'll realize at the same time all the things that you're doing that you probably shouldn't be doing. So start before you're ready. And then, as I mentioned, I also struggle with try to release that control. It doesn't matter how they get it done, just that they get it done.
mm-hmm.
And that's super important as well.
Yeah, better done than perfect in many ways.
Yes. Yep.
And to anybody listening, Loom really is like the greatest tool
Awesome.
ever. I use it all the time for either like sending a note to my clients and just making it a video and making it more engaging. Too, for my assistant, we use Loom for training videos because I can record
Yeah.
my screen and have my face on there and kind of say, this is how I do it and why I do it this way. And um, it's super helpful. I think
Awesome.
that was like just a great nugget right there. So this is a podcast about success. But if you poll anybody on the side of the road and ask them, how do you define
Mm-hmm.
success? Everyone defines it differently, and you'll get a different answer from each person. So for you, how would you define success, and how will you know if or when you've achieved it?
So success to me is having the freedom to do what I want, when I want, and where I want,
Mm,
along with the financial uh, freedom as well, within reason, to meet that lifestyle, right? When I
mm,
say financial freedom, it's not like you need to be buco rich, but it's covering all of your lifestyle expenses in some way, shape, or form. That
mm.
would be success to me. So I'm on kind of that passive freedom approach,
Yeah,
and I'm pretty close. So
I love that. I mean, yeah, it sounds like with the traveling the world and having
yeah.
the freedom to be able to afford that and work in the morning and play in the afternoon. I mean, that's it. When I talk to clients, I'm like, money is only as valuable as the quality of life it gets you. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's longing for that. And if the goal for my clients, like if we're doing financial planning, I'm like, if your goal is money alone, just more money, we're not going to be a great fit. Because if that's your goal, you're never going to have enough. Like that finish line keeps moving back. And there's something psychologically about that. But if your goal is just what you said, I want to be able to take time off. I want to be able to work when I want to work, where I want to work. I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, where I want. Um, we can build that. Like we can use all your
Mm-hmm.
tools and resources to be able to do that. So I just
That's awesome.
completely agree with that definition of success. Well, I have loved this conversation, and I think we probably have to have you come back on to at some point to talk through
Deep
like
dive.
hiring a virtual assistant and how to
Love to.
maximize that. Because I think the listeners would get a lot out of that. But thank you so much for being on today. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Good luck to everyone listening.